I have to say what a pleasure it is to be on the panel. And I guess we stand between you and having a beverage or whatever you're going to do this evening. So we'll get right to it. But what a fantastic start, I guess, and now we're in the middle of Abu Dhabi Finance Week. There's an amazing amount of energy here, an amazing group of people, and this panel is representative of the diversity that's in this auditorium and around Abu Dhabi Finance Week. And so it's a real pleasure. I have the honor, I guess, of discussing building tomorrow's elite teams with an incredibly talented group, and I have the challenge of doing that in 25 minutes. So we won't spend much time on backgrounds. We'll kick in.
Brian, it turns out it's only 18 minutes now. So.
Yeah, so I have a bigger challenge. But the UAE is a very unique place in the world in terms of entrepreneurial spirit and in leading the world now in many of its initiatives, as you've seen already here. Not least amongst the challenges of keeping that title, I think, is obtaining and maintaining and training people. And so that's what we're going to turn to today. And I'm going to first turn to Iman Al-Hamadi. And Iman, you are the Group Human Capital Strategy and Organizational Effectiveness Senior Vice President at Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, ADNOC, one of the world's leading companies and absolutely critical to the infrastructure here in the UAE. You're handling 45,000 employees. So let me just ask you, what are the key characteristics that you're looking for to define an elite team in this changing work environment that we have today?
Okay, good afternoon, and it's a great pleasure to be here to discuss such an important topic. So there are many characteristics, as you said, in such an environment that is in rapid changes. However, I try to summarize it in 4 or 5. And I think from the experience we had in ADNOC, specifically transformation for the last decade, number 1 comes is the agility. You have to be very adaptable, the agility to embrace changes and embrace and clarity and certainty, especially in an environment where everywhere in the sectors, whether in energy sectors or other sectors, facing the same challenges. We deal with unknown. Our people and our talent needs to be very well prepared for future, and that's required them to be very agile and be very self-driven when it comes to the self-management as well. In addition, I think the most important one, people are moving now to care about how the culture look like, how you embrace cultures. We saw a lot of talent that is well known, however, couldn't embrace the culture they are working on, and very diverse culture. In ADNOC, we have 120 nationalities all around the world. And having the right culture to really foster these skills and use these skills at the right place is one of the key success that we had in the industry itself. Of course, the Gen AI and the innovation technology being updated with the right skills and the future skills is quite important. It's quite challenging for us being in the size of 45,000 and a heavy national company. Our monetization is 60%, while we still have a lot of diverse workforce. However, that's required us to keep upskilling our people. And that's take me to the last point, where we think the continuous learning is the key important initiative for us to really prepare the next generation. Our GCO, Dr. Sultan Al-Jaber, always say our key priority is actually to have our sustainable national skills available for ADNOC and for the Abu Dhabi in general. So we put a lot of emphasis to make sure that we are upskilling our people. We put a lot of emphasis to make sure that they are equipped with the latest skill possible for us to ensure that they are performance-driven.
Very good. Thank you. And Iman is a great example of Emirati leadership. Really, and very happy that you've joined us here today. I want to turn now to some venture capital. So we have Andy and Amir here today, and chances are all of you will have interacted with a company that these gentlemen have kicked off over the course of the week, I would say, if not even the course of a day. So Andy, I'm going to turn to you first. From your experience as a venture investor, tell us about the various types of venture-backed company leaders that you've encountered.
Great. So first of all, I'm excited to be here. This morning I reflected that UAE, I've traveled to this country more than any other country on earth in the last 10 years. And I thought it's something. And before that was Singapore, before that was China, and then before that was New York. Maybe this is some sort of leading or lagging indicator. As Brian mentioned, I'm an early stage venture capitalist. So my job is actually to interview people, to interview founders, right? So our firm has been in business for 30 years, and I've been doing this for 20 years. We have a portfolio of about 1,000 companies. We're very early. So out of the 1,000, I have invested in 100 of them, and I probably interviewed 10,000 founders in my 20 years. So I got lots of data. And I found out that successful founder CEOs into this kind of 2x2 matrix, so if you kind of bear with me. So you have the People's Choice CEO, and then you have the Hero Ball CEO, okay? You know what Hero Ball means? Hero Ball means like Michael Jordan or Steph Curry. They score 50 points a game, and they just score, right? You have that kind of CEO. That's the Elon Musk of the world. And then you have the People's Choice. That's sort of a more team-oriented. They build a big group of people. They divide and conquer. Brian Armstrong of Coinbase. So both are our portfolio companies. And then y-axis, you have the founder CEOs and the professional CEOs. So the founder CEOs, Robin Lee, for instance, of Baidu, which we also seeded, just like those other two. And then you have the professional CEOs, Tim Cook of Apple. Unfortunately, we didn't see that one. But so you can kind of get a sense. So the idea is, it doesn't matter who you are, what type, you better be the best of your category.
Fantastic. And that's some good lessons learned. We can unpack that, I think. Amir, I'm going to turn to you now. I mean, you're the co-founder of, is it Coatue?
Coatue, yeah.
Coatue.
Coatue Ventures.
Coatue stands for Champions of the Underdog. I absolutely love that name. But what do you and your team consider, I guess, in leadership of companies nowadays?
Yeah, look, obviously we're a regional fund. We invest, at the core of our thesis is really a people-first generalist strategy, but we focus on people. And in the Middle East, I mean, we're still at the early innings of an ecosystem, and what that means is a lot of the founders that we back, 80% of them tend to be first-time founders. And that's exciting because you're kind of at the mercy, or you're kind of at the influence of their rate of growth. But if I had to put it down to one, let's say three things, but one character trait that we see consistently and what we look for in our founders, it's have they encountered and overcome adversity at their early years? So we believe that from ages 3 to 18, 90% of the person's character is formed at that age. And so what we tend to do with our founders in the process is we have deep conversations about their childhood. I know it sounds like a therapy session, but really it's a really deep, connected session where you understand, what was their upbringing like? When did they start making independent decisions? Were they competitive growing up, or were they bullied? Did they travel a lot? Where were they in the sibling hierarchy? Why did they choose their degree or their university, right? All of these signals show their sort of experience, their life experience. And the ones that overcome adversity tend to be ready to take on being a founder, because things are very uncertain in the early years, and you really have to go through walls consistently to succeed. And so through those conversations we have with founders, we kind of tend to get a sign of their character. Then the two other traits that we think about is how much depth and clarity do they have around what they're trying to do. So we ask the question why a lot, and through asking why, we try and determine, have they really gone deep around the problem they're solving? How attached and obsessed are they about what they're doing? And then clarity comes in the form of how simple and clearly do they explain what they do. The ones who do it really simply have done it so many times that they're able to take something really complex and simplify it. That shows up when they talk to investors. That shows up when they talk to future hires and customers. So in general, I mean, there's so many other things to talk about when you talk about founders, but consistently, those are the three patterns that we think determine the chances of success. And because we're, like I said, first-time founders mainly, I think we have to anchor around that signal a lot more than their track record.
Fantastic. And I was trying to answer those questions as you spouted them out. Yeah. So we'll come now to
those are trade
trade
secrets.
secrets. Yes. We're turning now to Richard Hills, and Richard's working here with a global risk management and compliance team, and leading a number of digital transformation projects and helping institutions fight financial crime and fraud. And that's a critical role, I think, for us going into the digital future. But Richard, what are the emerging roles and competencies that you foresee as becoming essential, really, to organizations in prioritizing digital transformation and innovation?
I work predominantly with the financial industry, and from my observation, I think you will agree, the financial industry and technology are at an inflection point at the moment where digital transformation and innovation are no longer optional concepts. They are imperatives, and that shift necessitates a profound change in how organizations think about talent. The future workshop needs to align with emerging technologies, digital transformation, data-driven decision-making, and the demand for those competencies. So keeping that in mind, I can think of data scientists and data analysts that are playing a pivotal role in data-driven or data-enabled real-time decision-making. The professor before us mentioned that everybody spoke about AI today, and AI specialists and machine learning engineers that are able to build the technology that will enable anything from fraud detection to personalized customer experiences are really important for organizations to have at their disposal. At the moment, cybersecurity experts with the development of technology, cyber risk is always a reality. Digital transformation strategists are really important to bridge the gap between business strategy and the technology that will execute that business strategy. Ensuring a seamless integration of the technology in the wider organization. And then lastly, in terms of roles, I think experienced designers are really important, because the technology needs to deliver what the customer wants. Nobody goes to a shop to please the shopkeeper. If you do develop technology, and I see that often where really good technology gets developed, and once it's developed, the people that developed it are looking for a problem to solve with the technology. So those experienced designers are pivotal to make sure that the investment in the technology gives them the return on the investment that they envisage from the start. And then lastly, Brian, I think if you think about how organizations need to develop this talent, I think upskilling and reskilling programs are really important, especially in the senior leadership of organizations, making senior leaders more acceptable for change, and getting them to think a little bit more algorithmic than what might be the case now. It's important to foster a culture of innovation. It's important to have flexible career paths and inclusive leadership development. One of the core principles of successful digitalization is to get rid of organizational silos.
Yeah.
And you get rid of those silos if you provide the people that support your organization flexible career paths. And then lastly, it's important for organizations to proactively identify these roles and to cultivate these skills proactively. Make sure that the digital culture and the digital capabilities of your workforce align with your digital and technology strategy before you embark on the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And Iman, I want to come back to you again with 45,000 employees. How are metrics you know, in terms of performance and just day-to-day life, I guess. How is that changing over time?
So we realized the necessity to change from the traditional performance matrix to something more related to productivity of people. And to measure productivity, this is one of the most trickiest things you can ever do.
Yes.
Because you need to deal with people when it comes to even their experience index, their satisfaction index in the organization, their learning outcome and return of investment. So we started to really shift to more of a strategy that related to people experience measure, culture measures, satisfaction levels measure, and well-being activities, more than just getting a set of target and meet the target or exceed the target. And to be honest with you, we're still evolving in this stage because we realize that you have to deal with a lot of generation within the workforce.
Right.
And the upcoming generation is more complex when it comes to the motivation for work than the previous generations. So the future of our performance is more about really how much of productivity you are bringing in, whether you are working in the office, you are working in remotely, and new strategies with work flexibility has been introduced, and that's come with own challenges to really measure that we are getting the best outcome of our people. But we can feel comfortable that we can see the productivity is going up every year.
Yes.
And we also working hard to make sure that we're still evolving this further and further by adapting the highest technology possible and getting the people educated that this technology here to really help them to improve the processes and the work, not to replace them. And by today, we actually have 40% of our previous jobs that was very administrative by its nature, replaced by technology, and that's free up a lot of our skills for the future growth that we are anticipating.
Fantastic. And as we're getting close to the wall here, I'm going to use the same question for the three gentlemen. I guess, what are the emerging trends that you see impacting kind of teamwork, I guess, and collaboration in organizations? And what advice, in a very quick sense, would you give to this audience?
I'll just say very quickly, I think it's AI and remote work, and both of those could help, but if not managed correctly or overused, it could really hurt that human-to-human interaction where I see a lot of creativity comes from.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, and AI is not software. Changing organizations is more.
Yeah.
Amir.
Yeah, look, I tend to agree with that. I think AI is really shaping the way we're going to work together. We, in the region, have a distributed workforce in general. UAE tends to be the most diverse, and Saudi and Egypt tend to be very local. And so if you're building for the region, you kind of have to make benefits from the three different markets. So you have like engineering talent situated in Egypt, markets in Saudi, and UAE has a lot of the senior, most experienced people from all over the world migrating towards it. So thinking about that would be interesting if you're looking at the Middle East.
Fantastic.
I think while technology and digital transformation is centralizing a lot of the processes and capabilities in organizations and doing away with organizational silos at an operational level, the workflows is becoming more and more decentralized, not only by remote work, but physically working in different locations on the same project. And I think a good digital culture in organizations, as well as the effective use of technology that makes that enables that collaboration is really important if you want to use the technology to its best effect.
Fantastic. Well, please join me in thanking a great panel here today, and very much appreciate your time, and thank you all for